Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel's first COF, and today I've got the One Piece chapter 1065 to talk about. Now let's get into this chapter, because this chapter takes place, it continues right after the last chapter 1064, and we're still on the future island of Egghead, and we see Zoro and Brook just chilling on the sunny as they were in the last chapter, as the others left to go explore the research labs. Zoro and Brook decided to stay behind and watch the sunny, which is fair because we need at least someone to stay behind. And they're not the only ones there, because we see Caribou. He's managed to get out of the barrel he was trapped in before from Wano. And now he's sitting on the sunny and he's just talking to Zoro and Brook, and he's asking them if he can please stay with him for a little bit longer just to get to the next island, because this is a government island, and there's just no point of him going from being a prisoner of the young Hokkaido to ending up on a prison island, on a government island, where he's going to be arrested and then thrown back into another prison. But Zoro, he don't care. Zoro does not give a fuck. He's just like, yo, nah, you helped us in Wano, thank you for that, but you have to get off now. Deal's a deal. no fucks given by Zoro, and I love that. And after that, we don't see what else happens with Zoro and Brook and Caribou. We assume Caribou I assume he just fucks off and tries to find somewhere to hide or some ship to get on to escape. But now we cut back to we cut back to Usopp, Nami, Robin, and Frankie and Sanji, and they're still with Lilith. They're just exploring the lab, and these guys are excited. They're excited by seeing everything, and as they head to this gate, they're walking down this big metallic corridor, this futuristic corridor, and there's a big circular gate, and Lilith just walks straight through. And at first, the others don't seem to realize what's going on. But obviously, it seems like it's some sort of hologram, like the other things we've already seen on this island. And whilst they're looking for her, I do have to say that Lilith does get a call from Edison, another one of the Vegapunks, and so she slinks off somewhere. But there's also one thing I wanted to talk about, and this is where Lilith says that the whole island is powered by fire. Now, as we know, in the story, Sabo has the Merinomi, and because Lilith says the island's power source is fire. Fire can be converted into all types of energy. Because Lilith says, I thought if only there was something such as an undying flame. Now, again, this is clearly a reference to the Merinomi, and potentially an awakening there can create an undying flame, which would be a unlimited renewable source of energy. So that right there, that to me tells me that is why the world government was after the Merinomi for so long, because Vegapunk wanted it, because with it they would be able to create a unlimited energy source which could be used to power the pacifistas, their weapons, battleships. The world government would then have 100% monopoly all over the world if they had got their hands on Merinomi. But a tangent aside, after Lilith disappears, because like I said, she gets a message from Edison, another one of the Vegapunks, and while she's talking, the others are still looking for her, like, where'd you go, and she tells them just follow through, ignore your eyes and just walk through. So sure enough, the Strawhats, they listen and they walk through, but like I said, Lilith disappeared. She's talking with the other Edison somewhere. We don't know where she's disappeared off to. And whilst they're walking down this corridor, they're looking into a room. Nami's like, I hope we can find some futuristic treasure here. And Nami gives Usopp a future kick, because he does say to her, like, I don't know if you're a dreaming girl or a greedy old hag, because Nami's saying, oh, I hope there's flowers made of jewels and all this sort of stuff. But this is where this is where the rest of the Straw Hats, they come across one of the Seraphims, and it's not just any of the other Seraphims. It's the Jinbei clone, because we already know that the pacifistas are basically modified human clones. So that means all of the warlords, the world government have all of the warlords' DNA. They gathered it at some point and managed to clone them and create these new pacifista models. And bear in mind, because the Straw Hats, they're not aware of the Seraphim right now. They don't know about what's going on. This is their first interaction with a Seraphim, so they believe they believe that it is Jinbei, their crewmate, and they even say, Jinbei, is that him? Robin's like, no, can't be. It's him, but it seems like he's a little young. I don't think it is him. And Usopp says, possibility 1 is Jinbei's son, Nami. Possibility 2, Jinbei got turned into a child. And possibility 3, which Sanji says, is just a lookalike. And I mean, he's got wings and he seems off in general. Because remember, the Seraphim, they had the signatures that they have the black wings like the Lunarians, and they have white hair and they can sprout flames just like the Lunarians can as well. So this is like Jinbei as a kid, but still in his like adult form, in like with adult proportions, I guess. Because Frankie even says he looks like a kid, but he's just as big as Jinbei. He says, I've got a bad possibility about this possibility and here's where Frankie offers his one, which is the correct one. Possibility 4, it's a pacifista, and just then the Jinbei pacifista lets off a laser beam and attacks the Straw Hat crew. And again, these pacifistas are packing some firepower behind them because it lets off a giant explosion. Or the Straw Hats are dodging, trying to evade this explosion. And even Usopp says it was a setup. I knew the world government wouldn't greet us with open arms like this. Meaning it's a clone soldier of Jinbei. And bear in mind, Nami's facing down this clone, the Seraphim clone, and she's got her. And bear in mind. Nami's got a climb attack ready, and she even says, just because you're a child doesn't mean I'll go easy on you, knowing that this thing is some sort of evil clone machine by the world government. It's not a real child in that sense. But based on what we find out later, maybe they are more in line with children in a way. Because as Nami's about to go and attack the Seraphim, he dives into the ground, and he uses the abilities of Senior Pink, who, as you all remember, if you don't, I don't blame you. Senior Pink was a member of the Don Quixote pirates, and he had the swim through ability, so he could dive and swim in the ground as if it was water. Now, obviously, he still had the usual devil fruit weaknesses, but he could essentially swim in the earth as if it was the sea. A weird ability, but given to a fishman pacifista. It's an incredible way for maneuverability and surprise attacks on your opponent, because Nami doesn't even realize it's done this. And even Frankie says, hang on, I know that power, but before it's too late, the Seraphim pacifista already pops back out and grabs Nami by the throat. And but before the Seraphim can even attack Nami, my boy Sanji comes in. Simp of the year Sanji comes to save his queen Nami. I'm fucking about. I do love Sanji as a character. And Sanji's like, it's death for you, even if you are Jinbei, because he's obviously attacked Nami. And Robin's adding on to the attack using her Gigante Fleur, which creates a giant clone of herself. And even she says, and the same goes for what Sanji said, I won't let you get away with that. She uses her sea serpent Snapdragon, and Spank and she's using the continuous giant hands going toward going at this pacifista. But again, the pacifista manages to use the devil fruit ability of Senior Pink to dive underwater to evade these attacks. And Usopp even says, "Watch out, Nami. He even knows fisherman karate." So these Seraphim could use techniques used by their predecessors. Insane. Now, whilst Usopp says this, he is letting off a special green attack. His skull blast grass at the pacifista. He mentions that even knowing that it's not Jinbei, I still don't feel right about this. So we can see that these pacifistas can also add the psychological warfare factor to their opponents, because if they look like someone their opponent knows, then that's gonna obviously throw them off in battle. And again, as Usopp attacked this pacifista, he again dives underground, comes out and attacks Usopp from behind. Again, this swim fruit is a deadly fruit when used correctly. Like, I know a lot of people probably thought this fruit is a pile of shit, but I always thought, wow, if given to someone who's naturally can swim like a fisherman, this fruit could be deadly. And Sanji's about to jump in to save Usopp, to help out Usopp, but Frankie's like, "Nah, Sanji, stay out of this. I've got this." And he uses his radical beam, bam. Again, but we don't see if it hits the pacifista, because it pans to another one of the Vegapunk satellites, Edison the Thinker, because he's watching all this battle going on because Edison is watching this whole fight in what seems like his laboratory. Edison the Thinker, I believe Edison's number 3, and he says, "Wow, that was a close one. The Seraphim are still children. They're not ready for laser tests yet. I guess they've still got some time in order to develop until they can handle like laser attacks. So, but they're still pretty powerful. From what I see, they're holding their own against the Strawhats. Just one of them are." And this is where we see Lilith, because we find out where Lilith went to, and obviously she went to Edison to watch this fight, because I'm assuming this was their plan the whole time, to see how the Seraphim pacifistas hold up against the Straw Hat pirates or another top tier pirate crew. Again, just gathering data to better refine them. And Lilith says, "You can say that again. Do you know how much one of these Seraphim costs?" And this is where the Edison Vegapunk is like, "Eureka! I've just thought of a new invention." Because he notices that, oh, Frankie's got lasers. I didn't know anyone else had lasers. Who is he? So now Edison is now interested in Frankie. So maybe maybe Edison's gonna meet up with Frankie and they're gonna do a little collaboration. We might get some upgrades for Frankie, some new future tech. I hope so, because I've always had a hope that Frankie gets like another robot that he can use and like combine with, just like in Power Rangers, because obviously there's a lot of Super Sentai references with Frankie and the Super Frankie and his other creations he's made. But now we do meet Vegapunk number 4, Pythagoras the Wise, because once Edison comes up with this new invention idea, he goes to Pythagoras, which is the 4th Vegapunk, and he basically gives him all the battle data and schematics. And Pythagoras, he's just like, "Wow, I can't believe we've got this type of data. It's rare that we get battle data like this every day. This is once in a lifetime input." So it seems like all these Vegapunk models all have different various uses. Like the Pythagoras is for inputting data and analyzing things. Edison is the thinker or the creator. And we do see Edison jump back, because he jumps back because he's getting more creative ideas, so he keeps writing out more schematics for more inventions. I don't know if we're actually going to see any of these pan out. That's why I'm hoping that these things are going to be add-ons that Frankie is going to use later on. And we also get to meet York the Greedy, another one of the Vegapunks, and York is just basically stuffing her face. She's just eating and eating. And they got these other robots and assistants bringing food to her, like more food for York. Her current BMI is over 600. I'm like, What? We pan back to Pythagoras, the thinker. I mean, Pythagoras the wise, I should say, sorry. When he says that the Seraphim's attack patterns evolve as they grow, does that mean that the bloodline elements record an individual's experiences? Now, it's clear that it does, because the Jinbei Seraphim was able to use Fishman karate, so it goes to show that they're able to use techniques and abilities that the clone has trained and honed their bodies in. I don't know if it can. That's why I believe it will be able to copy Devil Fruit abilities as well, because that's how it was able to get Senior Pink's ability. And we all know that Devil Fruits become one with the user. It bonds to the user's DNA. Because the Edison also says it's a possible approach to the issues caused by the growth acceleration, so the drugs that they use in order to make these Seraphim clones grow faster. And we don't hear anything else from Pythagoras after that, because it cuts to the fucking toilet of all places, and we see York the Greedy leaving the toilet. We all know what she's just done, because she's lost all the weight that she's just gained from eating, and now she just goes to lie down for like a rest. And all these other robots are taking the data from Pythagoras, Edison's experiments, and they're taking them to simulation room 88. I don't know what is happening in that room, what's going to happen after that, but we'll probably find out in the next chapter. And now it cuts back to the fight between the Seraphim and the other Straw Hat pirates, and this is where Shocker the Good turns up, and he's like, "Stop, that's enough, Seraphim." He says, "I am Dr. Vegapunk, Shocker." And now none of the Straw Hats can move. They're all planted to the ground. The special shoes that they all put on have now glued them to the floor. Like, they can't move for the life of them. But also the pacifista has stopped attacking as well, so they're not in any danger. And even Shocker says, "Edison, Lilith, Pythagoras, I assume you're all satisfied now with the data you've gathered." And the others are like, "Oh man, what's he doing? He's ruining the best part." But again, he's already put a stop to this, and he says to the Straw Hats, "The reason why you guys can't move is because of the magnetic fields." Because he says, I can't trust any pirates. I'm sorry." Well, he doesn't say "I'm sorry," but he says, "Resistance is futile. There's no point trying to break out of this. I cannot take any chances with pirates." And Usopp says, "We also met a woman Vegapunk, and we heard an announcer Vegapunk as well, because on their way in, Edison was talking to them." And he says, "I am Vegapunk." He says, "Yes, I am also Vegapunk." And Usopp was like, "Am I Vegapunk?" Because he gets confused, because he's like, "Why is that so I've spoken to like three Vegapunks already, what's going on?" And he says, does this island look like the future to you?" And this is where, and Frank is like, "Yeah, of course this looks like the future, like between the Mecha Sea Beast outside and the Vega Force robot you guys got, and the zero gravity. This place is super futuristic. I want to spend years here. I want to spend the rest of my life here, just looking around at all the tech you guys have." And he even says, like, "We don't have to be enemies. Like, I just want to learn from you. Like, we don't mean any harm." And this is where the Shocker the Good says, like, "This place is the past." What? And even Frankie's reaction is like, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean place is the past?" And it cuts back again, and it cuts back. The chapter cuts to it cuts to Luffy, Chopper, Bonnie, and Jinbei, the real Jinbei. And it's like, "Check it out, Chopper. This ain't a hologram like before. It's the real thing." And Bonnie's like, "What is this? Did it used to move?" And Jinbei's like, "If it is future tech, it looks like it's too old for that." And we see this giant like a mechanical robot, but it's rusted. It looks hundreds of years old, like it's just been there for almost 1,000 years, let's say. Because Shocker the Good, he tells Frankie, like, "What if I told you Egghead wasn't the only kingdom that was as highly advanced as this, because Frankie's got questions. He's like, well, what do you mean this place is part of the past? And Shaka says that there was another kingdom before, or just as advanced, or that existed 900 years ago. So this is a confirmation that the ancient kingdom in the Void Century was just as advanced as the future island that the Strawhats are on right now, which means that they had a ton of Vegapunks, just like their technology was up there. They had the same level of technology, and something happened which wiped them off history. Now, obviously, we know that the ancient weapons were created in the Void Century, probably by the same kingdom. And now my theory is that the original 20 kings that founded the world government, they acquired the ancient weapons and then used them to destroy the ancient kingdom, and then subsequently wiped any history of the ancient kingdom off the face of the One Piece world, and then made it illegal to even look into the Void Century and what happened during that era of time. Because obviously this means that they haven't confirmed it, but devil fruits are a byproduct of the ancient kingdom. Then it's essentially confirmed now. I mean, I'm just thinking, what was the very first devil fruit? I believe that it may have been the Marimerinomi, the flame fruit, because, you know, fire is an essential resource. I think it was potentially, you know, the Logias, the Logia fruits, which allow people to turn into the elements itself. And then maybe eventually they experimented and was able to develop the Zoans, and then Paramecias were the last ones to be created because they have a more wild power set. But yeah, guys, that's One Piece chapter 1065. You guys tell me what your thoughts are on it. Make sure you guys like the video and comment your thoughts down below. Make sure you hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the other content I have coming out on my channel. I'm 36COF. You guys keep it fresh and keep it funky. Goodbye.